A journey back in history is always an opportunity for reflection. Who we are and what we are, where we are today and where we want to be in the future. They all depend on where we were yesterday. So on this occasion, it is fitting that on the 50th anniversary of the falling asleep in the Lord of Archbishop Michael of North and South America, who served our archdiocese from 1949 until 1958, we take a moment to be thankful and become more familiar with the ministry of our much loved and respected spiritual leader. Archbishop Michael was born Thukydides Konstantinidis in Maronia in western Thrace on May 27, 1892. He entered the Halki Theological School and graduated in 1914. He traveled for a number of years studying on scholarship from the Ecumenical Patriarchate in Russia at the theological schools of Kiev and St. Petersburg. Then, after the Russian Revolution, he returned to Constantinople, where he was ordained a priest in 1919 and served in parishes in that city. In 1923, Archbishop Michael was named Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Athens. And in 1927, he was appointed to serve in London as priest of the Cathedral of St. Sophia, where he remained for 12 years. While in London, he was very active in ecumenical affairs and represented the Ecumenical Patriarchate at a number of ecumenical meetings and conferences. In 1939, Archbishop Michael was elected Metropolitan of Corinth. He was a loving and philanthropic leader for the faithful during the very difficult times of World War II and the German occupation. He helped feed his flock both physically and spiritually and saved many from being executed or sent to concentration camps. On October 11, 1949, the Holy Synod of the Ecumenical Patriarchate elected then Metropolitan Michael of Corinth as Archbishop of the Greek Orthodox Church of North and South America. Archbishop Michael arrived by boat in New York City, and 2 months later, on December 18, 1949, was enthroned, thus beginning his ministry to the Church in the Americas. The initial reaction to the Archbishop's election was not favorable. First, he had to follow in the very large footsteps of Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras, the former Archbishop of North and South America. And second, some thought it would take a great deal of time for Archbishop Michael to become acquainted with the issues and concerns that the Church faced. But Archbishop Michael proved to be a great and inspiring leader who had a vision with no boundaries. He was a different leader than his predecessor, yet he was an excellent choice at that time for the Church in the Americas. He was a learned theologian with a profound mind, with deep faith and commitment, unshakable in his dedication to his calling. His varied experiences prepared him well for this new ecclesiastical seat. He used his own gifts of piety and spiritual authenticity to steer the course of the Church.
Archbishop Michael was a remarkable person. He was very open to realities of contemporary world. Therefore, he was easy in cultivating connections and relationships with high-standing people in the political and social level. So here you have someone who took really significant steps, very practical, while at the same time was continuously aiming and cultivating the very spiritual basis of this church as absolutely necessary. A remarkable combination.
This Archbishop wanted to meet his flock personally. Within 1 year, he visited 107 congregations, covering almost 50,000 miles of the United States and Canada. He also visited the Greek Orthodox community in Latin America, the first Orthodox leader to do so. In 1950, he met with General Juan and Evita Perón and requested that Argentina open its borders to the people of Greece after World War II. He further expressed his gratitude to Evita Peron for what she had done in the past for 28,000 Greek children who had been abducted by communists to the countries behind the Iron Curtain. Archbishop Michael understood the spiritual and financial needs of our growing church. For 10 years, the monodolarion, or $1 per family obligation, instituted by Archbishop Athenagoras in 1942, had sustained the needs of the archdiocese. In 1952, at the 11th Clergy Lady Congress in Los Angeles, where the magnificent new Cathedral of St. Sophia was consecrated, Archbishop Michael urged delegates to legislate the $10, or $10 obligation per family. The faithful supported this financial increase to fund the work of their church.
The very big jump from the offering of $1 to $10, the so-called decadolarion, which became a famous word, that was a very, very big step. $1 to 10 is 1,000%. And the people accepted it because they saw the reason, and because this Archbishop was able to project the need not only for the immediate present conditions, but for the future, seeing the church developing in view of an influx of immigrants, and therefore not having any other resources from any state or anything like things happening in Greece. He had to go to have resources that would be available immediately, and they would come from the very people, and therefore they would be secure and never failing. And he did that. That was a great, great thing.
With the financial stability of the Archdiocese came the development of critical ministries. The Archbishop began the effort to establish pensions for our clergy to ensure stability for them and their families into the future. Archbishop Michael also urged the development of new materials for teaching religious education to the faithful and began the Department of Religious Education. Although Archbishop Michael was in favor of the Greek language in the Divine Liturgy, he recognized the changing needs of the faithful in America and was the first Archbishop to allow the use of English in sermons and in the teaching materials being developed. He also saw a need and a responsibility to care for the immigrant pioneers of the church in America. Archbishop Michael supported and encouraged the establishment of a home for the elderly, which continues to thrive as St. Michael's Home in Yonkers, New York.
This year, St. Michael's Home celebrates its 50th anniversary. For it was 2 short months before the Archbishop passed away on July 13th that on May 25th of 1958, the Archbishop gathered with dignitaries from across the nation, including the Ambassador of Greece to the United States, the Ambassador of Greece to the United Nations, to open the doors of the first institution of our church to serve the needs of the elderly. The remarkable thing is the vision that he had at that time. For nobody in the 50s was thinking about elder care or the needs of the elderly, but the Archbishop foresaw a need for such a facility which would care for the pioneers of our community in the United States, and for that reason he named it Spititu Protoporou. And so while the Archbishop has left this world, St. Michael's is a testament to his vision and also to his pastoral sensitivity, which were hallmarks of his ministry.
At Holy Cross in Brookline, Archbishop Michael appointed a dean with academic credentials and several new and professionally trained faculty members. It was this initiative that allowed the school to rise to its potential as a center of theological studies. He believed that all graduates must be fully equipped to fulfill their pastoral mission.
Recently, I spoke to one priest, Father Ernest Arambiges, in Baltimore, Maryland, who's been retired a few years, and I said, Father Ernest, do you have any recollection of Archbishop Michael? And he said, academically, the school was starting to shape up and be stronger and stronger. He said, but the most impressive memory I have of Archbishop Michael is when he came to us and he gathered all the students together. And he handed each one of us a small New Testament for our pockets. And he said, I'm giving you this, I bought them myself, I'm giving you this, and you carry it in your pocket, but it's not there for decoration. He says, I want you to take it out, I want you to read it, and I want you to understand it and learn it and make it your own. Become one with the New Testament and the Bible. Father Ernest said that it was probably one of the most powerful experiences of his ministry.
The Archbishop also began to initiate the uniform parish bylaws in an effort to eliminate miscommunication and establish a central office to unify the parishes across the country. Although initially viewed by some as a move towards bureaucracy, the UPR was successful in introducing harmony between the parishes and the archdiocese. Archbishop Michael was also a devotee of learning and writing. He spoke 5 languages, authored a number of books, and was a translator of others. He had a vast knowledge of other faiths and denominations, especially Christian, since he had spent time at the World Council of Churches. Perhaps Archbishop Michael's most remarkable legacy is the establishment of the Greek Orthodox National Youth Organization, or Goya. Goya was the Archbishop's instrument to bring the young into the arms of the Church. Through a directive by the Archbishop, Goya's first conference was held on the weekend before the 10th Clergy Lady Congress in St. Louis in 1950. Representatives from 29 communities across the country convened, eager to establish this new organization. During Archbishop Michael's tenure, Goya blossomed into more than 250 communities in every part of the country, with more than 37,000 members in the 1950s. Years later, these men and women who were raised within the folds of Archbishop Michael's Goya would become our leaders.
When Archbishop Michael arrived in '49, I was the only one in New York City that had an inkling of what the youth movement in the United States was becoming. So I briefed him and I said, you know, we have federations all over the place and it would be nice. He said, why don't you join together into a national organization? I said, that, Your Eminence, would be a great thing, but we would need your blessing and your support, which means that the priests would have to go along, that their particular youth group would belong to a national youth group. He would come to the ball. You don't expect an archbishop to walk in on a young people's ball, right? I mean, he's not going to dance. But he would come and he would sit and he would smile and wave at people and wave people over and say, this is a beautiful affair and that's nice of you to socialize this way. He would come to basketball games and sit where the officials were sitting. I mean, you know, the side tables for a whole game far into the night, where he was exhausted from an all day at the Archdiocese. By 1955, we had 37,000 members in Goya, all of whom were devoted to their parishes, were in their choirs. When they grew up a little older, they become members of their Philanthropic. Many of the young men became members of the boards of trustees and women. And it became, to use a colloquial baseball phrase, the farm system for the leadership of the Greek Orthodox Church of America.
Archbishop Michael's humanitarian and philanthropic efforts were truly unprecedented. After the earthquake in the Ionian Islands in 1954, the Archbishop issued an appeal to the Homogenia in the United States. $1 million. At that time, an astounding sum was raised to help the victims. In response to the persecution of Greek Orthodoxy in Istanbul in 1955, Archbishop Michael published a special newspaper. It depicted the atrocities at the Patriarchate, and he distributed it to members of Congress and the news media. This effort contributed to the saving from destruction of the Patriarchate, but not of the suppression that still continues today. Archbishop Michael moved the church forward in the 1950s, yet his vision included securing a place of prominence in all of America for our church and Hellenic Orthodox culture. This was seen and admired by all Americans, from non-Orthodox religious leaders to civic leaders and the general population. Archbishop Michael had been involved in inter-Orthodox and inter-church relations from as early as 1927, when he represented the Ecumenical Patriarchate at the Faith and Order Conference held in Lausanne. He participated in and encouraged both inter-Orthodox and inter-church relations. In 1954, at the General Assembly of the World Council of Churches in Evanston, Illinois, Archbishop Michael was elected one of its 6 presidents. Also during the 1950s, Archbishop Michael began the effort that was continued by his successor, Archbishop Iakovos, to obtain formal recognition for our Greek Orthodox faith through resolutions adopted by state legislatures. Previously, official references to major faiths had been limited to only Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish. This recognition, in turn, led the United States Congress to adopt a bill that recognized Eastern Orthodoxy in the armed forces as unique from the Catholic and Protestant faiths. In 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower accepted an invitation from the Archbishop to participate in the cornerstone laying ceremony at St. Sophia Cathedral in Washington, D.C., a ceremony many still remember.
When he would come to Washington, he was well thought of, well accepted, and he projected a new image of the Greek Orthodox Church in America. I remember making the arrangements at the White House for the laying of the cornerstone at St. Sophia. We greeted the president, brought him in, and at the end, the Archbishop stepped down, went directly to the president, invited him up to the Soleas, offered a few words, commentary, and a greeting on behalf of the Orthodox community, and then he reached over and placed the medal around his neck. Then they escorted President Eisenhower out to the front of the church where the cornerstone was symbolically laid, and it was a glorious day.
Later that year, following the president's re-election, he extended to Archbishop Michael an historic invitation to offer the first Orthodox prayer at a United States presidential inauguration.
We praise Thee and glorify Thee, our Heavenly Father, Almighty God, for this ever memorable day of the inauguration, for another period of 4 years and lofty stewardship in the governing of our country, the United States, by our God-fearing and beloved President Dwight Eisenhower.
You, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
That you...
This brought a deep sense of pride to Greek Orthodox faithful across the country who had been overlooked for many years.
Well, we felt like we had arrived. We were recognized nationally for the first time at a very high level, because I don't think there's a higher level than the inauguration of a president. And we participated in that fully through Archbishop Michael.
"50 years ago, the biennial Clergy Lady Congress took place in Salt Lake City. Feeling poorly, Archbishop Michael attended and remained throughout the Congress. When it was apparent that he must have immediate medical treatment, he was flown by government plane to New York and was admitted to Doctor Hospital. As his condition worsened, faithful across the country were updated on his condition through news reports. Then, on July 13, 1958, Archbishop Michael passed to the Lord.
When he passed away, I went to his grave and I cried like a baby. I don't think I've ever cried that way for anyone. But that's how much love he had given to us. His legacy, I think, is one of faith and of patience.
He was our Father. He was the one who put us together, and he was the one who created us. So we were deeply sorrowful, and we all felt the loss as losing a member of our family when he passed away.
The Greek American community felt a deep loss because they felt that they were also losing a national leader who represented them nationally. and was very visible nationally.
The funeral at the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity in New York City was attended by more than 150 priests and ended with the long procession making its way here to St. Basil Academy, where Archbishop Michael was laid to rest.
He loved the academy. He loved the children. He would use the academy, St. Basil, as a respite, a getaway. Even the cottage, we named it Archbishop Cottage because Archbishop will come here during the week if he could get away for a day. It was an hour from the city, and he would come and be here and then interact with the children. He loved the children. I always had a sense of the presence of Archbishop Michael. We've gone through our trials and tribulations, and always we've come out. And I know in the depth of my heart that Archbishop Michael is a protector of this place, a protector of the children. And I just smile and I say, thank you, Your Eminence. Thank you, Yaronda, for his presence, his guidance, his love, his safety, his security, and his holiness. He's a blessing.
With the unparalleled vision of the ecumenical patriarchate, Archbishop Michael was sent to America at a time when his God-given gifts were essential to the continued growth of the Greek Orthodox Church in the Americas. A much loved and respected leader, he had a profound impact on our modern church and our country.
It is proper and right to look back and pay tribute to the life and legacy of Archbishop Michael. First of all, because he has been the Archbishop of this church for quite a number of years. Secondly, because he contributed by some very specific things that we mentioned related to legislature within the church, with the uniform regulations, economics of the church, youth of the church, projection of the church on the American level, and connection of the church with the high strata of society and administration in America. All these items are very important items. So this is the reason why. In addition, he has been a person that projected in a deep and indelible way spirituality and the need and the value, no matter what we do as church, no matter what our achievements are, to be always the people who are grounded in the faith, the Orthodox faith, connecting the people to God and projecting the message of the gospel everywhere. He was this type of person, an apostolic, spiritual, practical person that left a very strong legacy when he passed away. I think that no matter what we say today, it will be limited in comparison to what he really did.